Hey guys, Jeffries here, and welcome to Football Manager 2014. Um, this is, I would say, my second favourite game. I'm tempted to say my favourite game, but I've already said that for Roller Coaster Tycoon, and in fairness, I've been playing Roller Coaster Tycoon for about 4 or 5 years longer. So, yeah, this is Football Manager 2014. And basically, I'm going to do a playthrough of this. You might have seen the name of the series already. That gives you a bit of a clue as to what this series is going to be about. For those of you who don't know the famous expression, I believe it was Alan Hansen once said of Manchester United, "You'll never win anything with kids," and they went on to win quite a few trophies. This was during their era of Giggs, Butt, Beckham, Neville, Solskjaer, I think, was in that team as well, or he might have joined it a little bit later on. We might have already been there actually. Anyway, it was that era. You must know them, the treble-winning team of '99, and they dominated the league and the FA Cup and competitions like that. So that's where I've taken inspiration from. So actually, before I continue this, you might have noticed that I've selected quite a few countries and quite a few leagues. The reason behind this, again, I don't know if this is been changed for this year, but FM 2013, if you had, let's say, Scotland, if you didn't have them selected at the start like this, you could still view the teams in the leagues, but you couldn't view the whole team. I think it's the best way of saying it, like reserve team, youth team. You can only see the first team, and even then it might have just created players, like randomly generated players, not the actual squad of the real club. Was if I have them like this and select it as view only, you can see my game speed is still full. If I change all these to playable, these stars will fall right the way down to the bottom. I think I had it as 1.5 star when I first selected these, and then I managed to get it back up to 5 star again. Got a large database, of course, because lots of players to choose from. 17,000 approximately, which is fantastic. Obviously, we're starting in July 2013 because we're in England, and let's go. So, while this is loading, bit more of a background as to Football Manager. I got into Football Manager, I think, in 2006. So I bought Football Manager 2006. To start with, back then, I sort of just played around, messed around. Obviously, being a Steamish fan, they went on. In fact, no, they were on Football Manager, but I didn't really use them that much back then. Because although I'd only just started going to Stevenage games, I didn't really know the team that well, and it wasn't really my thing. What I liked to do back then was glory hunt, so I tended to play as teams like Chelsea and Arsenal, Liverpool, who were good back then. So yeah, I basically just messed around with higher rated teams, and then slowly over the years I've sort of become more interested in the lower leagues. I did a few test games of this before I started recording, and I did one as Concord Rangers, who play in the Skrill South. I did one as Portsmouth, who obviously are in League 2. That one was, both of those really were to practice using tight finances. That's something I like doing on Football Manager as well. I like signing a player on a free transfer who turns out to be a really, really good player. You've seen me bring that over into my FIFA career as well, trying to bring in good players like that. What else was I going to say? I had a whole list of things that I wanted to say, and I've completely forgotten them all now. I've started recording this. Oh yeah, that was it. More recently, I'm sure they've had this for a number of years now, but it's only in the last 2 or 3 years that I've started using this, is the Football Manager editor. And what I do there is I create an entire club from scratch. And you might have heard me mention this, I think, in one of my PES 2013 videos, that the idea for this year was to create a team on PES, on the new PES 2014, and then transfer that squad over onto Football Manager and do like a building from the bottom up kind of series. Unfortunately, I've mentioned this, I think I mentioned this in my Sims video, which is a really bad place to mention this actually, because I don't think many people would give a damn watching the Sims, but basically what happened was I bought PES, I love PES, I've always loved PES, I think I will always love PES, but playing it, I didn't think it was good enough to make a series out of. So, before I started doing my manager mode on here, or my Master League career, I went into the editor on there and I created a team. It's very similar to the Jeffreys United team from Pro Evolution 2013. Same kit, same... Well, I wanted to say same stadium, but that's bull, obviously, because for some reason Konami have taken out the ability to create stadiums this year, which is another reason why I decided not to record the series, because licensing. Now, this is something that I didn't know was possible, but apparently there is no rain in PES 2014 because EA have the license to have rain in their game. That's how I read it. I could have read it wrong, of course. That's how I read it. Anyway, so what I decided to do instead was I created a team on PES, and then I've transferred it over into Football Manager. I did a very simple system, which when I introduce you to the squad momentarily, I will explain to you in more detail. Right now, I'm just going to set this up. So, favourite team, because that always goes down well with the fans if you join a team that you're actually a fan of. There they are, Jeffreys United. I'm trying to remember the team that I think it was Farnborough. If there are any people on who are watching this video who are fans of Farnborough, I cannot apologise enough, but I had a very clever system when I did this. Was I created my Jeffreys United, I then went into the Skrill League table, or list of clubs that are in that division, and I had a little look at their finances. And what the story that's in my head was, one of the teams has massive financial difficulties over the summer, cannot afford to continue as a football club, and basically dissolves. And then we step up and take their place. And there's a whole backstory. It's very complicated and very complex. The simple story is, obviously, Jeffreys United get promoted into that division. They weren't really expecting it. A lot of their first teamers can't afford to travel for the league, so they basically end up with a team of kids, which we will see in a second. And in looking at the finances, I realised that Farnborough were actually the only team in serious debt in the Skrill League. So I've got nothing against Farnborough. They're a lovely team, I'm sure. I don't necessarily follow them or follow their results, but I do know that they still exist in real life, I believe. I imagine if they didn't, they wouldn't be on Football Manager. So yeah, we've basically taken Farnborough's place in the league. So let's just do a quick run through, making sure I got this right. Obviously, I'm going to use my full name because Jeffreys as a manager sounds a bit crap. I mean, it doesn't sound brilliant for a team, but that's who I am, so that's my team. Obviously, I'm male. I'm 10 years older than I should be on here because it only goes up to 1983. I was actually born in 1993. I'm English, of course. I don't have a second nationality that I'm aware of. Place of birth, WGC, of course. If anyone's from there, holler to you. Favourite team, as I said, the fans love it if you get hired by a team that you actually support. Favourite formation, I'm not going to choose. You'll see why in a second. Manager picture, I don't think you deserve to see me. Not in a bad way. I mean, I think you deserve better than to see me. I'm not going to put a password on it. Past playing experience, I would normally go for international footballer, but obviously I'm not. Doubt I'll ever will be as well, because I'd like to blow my own trumpet and say that I'm pretty good at football, but I'm better at the tactics side of it, which you might see in a minute. The actual playing football, not so much. Not going to bother with any of this stuff because obviously I'm uploading these videos, so you don't care whether I'm good or not. Here we go, Jeffreys United. Already we're predicted to finish first. Yeah, you make of that what you will. Basically, the squad I've got it's alright. I mean, I know I said you don't win anything with kids, and that's the name of the series, and judging by that, I'm imagining you're guessing that I've got lots of kids in the team, which of course I have. See, I did a very basic transfer from PES. I had a very simple system. Like I said, I'll explain it to you guys in a second. You might have noticed the finances. That is something that I'm not going to spend millions on players, but at the same time, I don't want to be restricted by finances, because I've given this club a good reputation, because in my opinion, if there's a news story that a team gets kicked out of the league and a team of kids takes their place, I imagine that would make the newspapers. So the reputation of the club, because of that, might rise. And that's what this scenario that's happened in my head. I'll also introduce you to the board members in a minute, and you'll see why I've got so much money. It's to stop me from going bankrupt, and it's also so that I can afford to keep the club going through the first couple of years when we're in the non-league. We've got a really nice stadium called the Jeffreys Arena at Goslin Sports Village. Anyone who knows me personally will know why I've got this at Goslin Sports Village tacked on the end. For those of you who don't, basically there's a sports village, well, it's a sports centre near where I live called Gosling. And there's a running track, and in the middle of the running track there's a football pitch. And the first time I ever saw the running track and the football pitch, I just thought that's a really nice place to actually build a stadium, because the slopes of the either side of the running track, the whole place is nicknamed the Bowl by locals, because that's basically what it looks like. It's a huge bowl dug into the ground with a running track around the outside of it and then a football pitch in the middle. And that slope that goes all the way around the outside, you can actually put some pretty nice terracing on. So yeah, that's basically why I've always had this thing of building a football stadium there. That's the Goslin Sports Village. Again, in my head they use this pitch. 2,500, that's maybe a little ambitious for a capacity, but 250 seated, I'd say that's roughly what Gosling can hold now. So it's quite realistic. The only issue I have here is the nickname of the club, the Jeffers. Again, anyone who knows me personally, Jeffers, it wasn't my nickname at school. My nickname was Mini Jeffers. My brother's nickname was Jeffers. But Mini Jeffers sounds crap for a nickname for a football team, because then you're thinking, well, there's always going to be someone better if you're the mini version. So yeah, we're nicknamed the Jeffers. Great training facilities, average youth facilities, yada yada yada. I think we're happy with that choice. Yep, let's save this game. You might have noticed there's a save file here already. That was just a test one, so we may as well just overwrite that one. And once this is saved, I will introduce you to the squad, which is actually what this episode is meant to be about. I've spent longer talking about the setup than I have about the actual team, which is probably not the best of decisions. This comes up every time. I don't really know how to get rid of it. I'll probably have to go into the settings for that. But anyway, before we go any further, let's meet the squad. We've got some more players in the youth team, but we'll start here. Now, you'll know this fella. You might remember him as being called Liberty Delamont in Pez, if anyone watched that series. Basically what happened this time is, normally in Football Manager, the manager's name is Regle Delamont, which means King of the World in French, roughly translated. And there was another player called Liberté Delamont, which means Freedom of the World, again roughly translated. So, in this case I've decided to go for King of the World just because it sounds better. This guy you'll also know. Again on Pez, he's just called Bobo de Silva, but his real name, his full name, as he was on FIFA when I first created him, is Julio Santos Bobo de Silva. Born in the slums of Rio, raised on the streets of Rio, given a football on his 5th birthday, let's just say, and now he, at the age of 15, has flown over to England for no apparent reason whatsoever and is in Welwyn Garden City playing football for a team that's just been promoted into a league. Sorry about that, guys. Had a little mishap there that I need to fix. What was I saying? Oh yes, Bobo. Yep, he ends up in Welwyn for no apparent reason. Likewise here, Delamont, born in Brussels, I believe. Again, a bit stereotypical considering he's Belgian, but I tried looking up Liège and Anderlecht. Wasn't really sure if they were actual places or not, and they weren't coming up on the server, on the system. So yeah, he is from Brussels and he is 16 years old, and again he finds himself in Welwyn Garden City for no apparent reason, playing for a team that have just been promoted into a non-league division. Who else have we got from overseas? We have got Lars Beckhold, who I remember basically devoting an entire episode to on Pez, mainly because I spent ages saying about how I wanted rid of him, and then he scored a really good goal for me. So he's here. He's no longer 28 or 29, whatever it is. He is 14. I wanted to tweak these ages, but then the whole series is called You Don't Win Anything with Kids, so I thought I might as well leave them as kids. Again, his ability and potential is pretty good. Who else have we got from overseas? We have got our friend here, Shane Federic, who's from Australia. We have got Matthias Klotmas from Denmark. We have got Franco Villa from Spain. Fernando Quintana from Chile. I suppose you can count Carl Hogan from Ireland. I'm losing people now. I remember. Oh, we got Geraint. I can't really pronounce this name very well. Geraint O'Brien, who again is a good goalkeeper. I've got some very good goalkeepers here. And when I explain my little system to you in a second, you'll realise why some of these players have got really high stats. Yes, in the youth team we've also got. Let me just get up their nationalities as well. We've got Jean-Francois, Ricky Carino, Gareth Jones, and you might recognise this little fella here. You may or may not recognise him, actually, even though I just said that you may recognise him. Drusen. Again, I kind of devoted an entire episode to him on my PES career. I made him. His name's Andrew. It doesn't sound brilliant when you say Andrew Drusen, but hey ho, just call him Andy. So yeah, I think for this episode now, I'll just briefly explain how I set up the stats for these players, and then I'll call it a day for this episode, and then in the next episode I'll start showing you guys tactics and things like that. So, how did I come up with these stats? What I did was, obviously on PES, I took an existing team by the name of We United, and I just changed the nationalities, some of the appearances, and the ages, and the names obviously, so they fit the nationalities. I ended up with a team of 25 players, I think it was. You know, 3 goalkeepers, the usual number of defenders, midfielders and strikers. And then of course I created Bobo and Delamond and put them in. What I then did was, obviously on PES, players' stats are rated out of 100, whereas on Football Manager they're rated out of 20. So I took a player. Let's come up with a good example of Thompson. Now I'm just trying to remember how I did this. I can't really use good reference points. Basically, if one player had like passing, if his passing rating on PES was 65, what I did was I took that number and divided it by 10 to get 6.5, added 10 onto it to get 16.5, and then rounded it to the nearest whole number. So he ends up with a passing rating of 17 on PES, on Football Manager, sorry. What I then did, obviously, when you create players in the editor, you can choose a starting ability and a future ability. So, with the exceptions of Delamond and Bobo, every single player in this squad has a starting ability of 75 and a future ability of 200. Whether they reach that number or not, who knows? You know, the game can force them to have an injury or a suspension or something which limits their progress. I did say with the exception of these two guys here, because they both started on 100 with a future of 200, only because I started them at 75, went to look at their stats, and you see it's all 10s down the board at the moment. When I did it at 75, they were all 8s down the board, which, I mean, single figures, as good a players as they become, because they still had 5-star potential, but they'd never get into my team with 8s down the board. So I rounded it up to 100 and got them 10s down the board. And again, I mean, these two don't look too realistic stats-wise. We have a bit more variety with players like Wilson and Beckhold and Thompson and McGregor, although McGregor's a bit biased as well, I suppose. But then if you see the player he's based off on PES, you'll see why. So yeah, this is the squad, guys. In the next episode, of course, we'll go through a bit more pre-season and setting up tactics and things like that. But for now, thanks for watching, guys, and until next time, I will see you soon.